So we have Pagal and Ray here with Snowflake and Mendix, chatting a bit about unlocking data, right?
We tell the same story
so
often.
I'm super excited for our next topic. Without further ado, we have Ray and Pagal with Snowflake and Mendix.
Yeah, I'll kick this off. Pagal Janakiraman, CTO for manufacturing at Snowflake, drive solutions on Snowflake. Together with me is CEO of Mendix, Ray Koch.
Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Ray. So anything else you want to quickly say about yourself?
No, excited to be here. I think we talk a lot about digitalization, but then we always forget the basics, right? It's all about how do we unlock data, and then once we have nice and clean data, how do you build the right application experiences around it? So that's why we're teaming up, and so let's talk about it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks for joining me here. So to quickly talk about some of the challenges we are seeing, why did this partnership come about? So today we are dealing with multiple customers who got silos of data, whether it is on-prem or in a cloud infrastructure. They are trying to get value out of this data, and it is not easy for them to do because of all the silos. That's where Snowflake comes in. So we can bring in the data seamlessly into a Snowflake environment. Once we do that, whether it is IT data, OT data, mobility data, any of those things, the first question which comes to us from customers, what next? How do I get value out of the data? That's where we have partnered with Mendix, who provide this low-code platform which can accelerate your value realization journey. So again, I think that's the reason for this partnership. With that, I will quickly hand it over to Ray to talk about Mendix as a platform as well. So, yeah.
Okay. Oh, you're going to, let me have this. So like Pagal was saying, obviously with Snowflake, you can unlock a lot of data, right? So like I said, once you have this data, it's about, okay, how do I get this data actually to my end users? So that's when application building comes into picture, right? So it comes into the picture, how do we build the right application experiences for my end users? So now there's another challenge. So you talked about a few challenges from a data point of view. When it comes to building a suite of applications, typically what we find working with clients, that there is a gap. And what is the gap? The business demand is huge, right? So we all seen the various analyst reports around, okay, the appetite and the need for digital transformation. But guess what? The team that actually has to build these applications doesn't have the capacity to be able to do so. So we typically call that the IT gap. And really what we do at Mendix through our low-code application platform is to reduce the IT gap. So how do we do this? It's pretty simple. So we actually put software development in the hands, we democratize it and we put it in the hands of many more people. So this is where low-code really kicks in. So low-code development is just a fancy word for building software using models. And not just models, but actually graphical models. So what you see on the screen perhaps, so on the top right, it's always kind of tricky when you're on stage here, top right, is an example of how you, for example, model business logic. So instead of you writing lines of code, what you do is you actually work with your business counterpart to visually model the business logic. Now, what is very interesting is that this is not just for a very specific deployment target. So it can run anywhere. So when you walk here around Hannover Messe, guess what? You see various deployment targets, right? We talk about cloud, we talk about edge, we talk about the edge to production. So the nice thing with Mendix is once you've developed an application with low code using our platform, you can actually deploy it at various levels. Can be cloud, can be your private cloud on-prem, can actually be near to production on the edge. Now when it comes to then data, and this is where we're teaming up, obviously your application only becomes interesting if you can bring in data, right? And so Mendix, since its beginning, very much focused on enterprise data connectivity. But what we've seen is that more and more of you out here, you want to further integrate and contextualize data. Why? Well, when you integrate and contextualize data, you get better insights, right? Just data out of each silo might not be that interesting. So therefore, spending a lot of time here together with Pagal, making sure that we're not just integrating with the data silos themselves, but working with Snowflake to be able to contextualize all this data so that we can support end-to-end business processes. And the last thing, when you talk about applications, this is not just about a laptop, right? So it's about mobile experiences, it's about frontline workers with a tablet, it's about a workstation. So the nice thing here is that with Mendix we actually support a multi-experience deployment so that you can actually go from mobile to responsive web all the way to very dedicated edge deployments. So how does this all work then? So nice, we do some stuff with low code here, but how does this work? Pugal and myself teaming up. So like I said, it's all about bringing data together. So at the bottom here you see your favorite data silos across your enterprise, right? So from ERP to MES to PLM to legacy. Let's not forget legacy. There's tons of legacy out there. So what we do here is we actually work with Snowflake to first of all ingest and most importantly contextualize this data so that you actually get an integrated view of your data across the enterprise. We all do this based on the AWS infrastructure, and then we put Mendix on top to actually build these application experiences. And so as you go up from infrastructure or core systems all the way to these end user applications, obviously this is where the business value starts to kick in. And the interesting thing is we actually allow data engineers and application developers to work together, because so far data and AI and app dev have been kind of siloed themselves, and so we're trying to bring those together. So with that, let's go dive into the use case.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Ray. So again, I think as Ray mentioned, a lot of things are possible, Mendix on top of Snowflake, because your acceleration of value realization journey happens. Added to that, whole bunch of customers are also interested in consuming AI capabilities within their enterprise. We are talking to so many aerospace customers today. They are struggling to consume AI within that because there are silos present there, and there is no easy mechanism for that aging workforce to accelerate the value realization. That's where Mendix plays a role, where we are literally enabling citizen development for our customers, where the power users can immediately start building their own apps to realize the value. We can do a lot, but we started building templates together. One of the many templates we have in place is traceability. A lot of customers are asking for a pre-built accelerator with which they can do some traceability work, whether it is parts tracing in a plant floor, or it is much larger as a digital thread from product development to manufacturing to supply chain, understanding what is going on within the manufacturing organization. There's a lot of use cases customers are struggling with. That's why we pre-built this solution, accelerator, to be leveraged by all our partners to accelerate your value realization journey, and also adoption of traceability app, which is kind of universal. If I go into any manufacturing company, they're struggling with this today. So why did we do this? The business problem the customers are facing today is every OEM we are working with, if I take an automotive OEM today, they are working with their supply chain for maybe 70% of the parts being produced, assembled in a car, comes from their supply chain today. So at any point in time, if an OEM is trying to make an engineering change to the design, the first question which comes up is, when do I make this part effective in a plant floor and then make sure that part is available? Today, if they ask their tier 1 suppliers on what should be the timeline for which, for me, I can set the effectivity, and what is the cost of change, it takes minimally 3 weeks plus for the suppliers to get back with an answer on this is what it will take, cost of change, and when the change will happen. So it's a huge problem for these OEMs and also for the suppliers today. It's a common ask across the industry is to give me this kind of solution out there, because if they cannot give an answer, so they are penalized today. So that's a huge pressure for them, both for the OEM and the suppliers, to have this application. So that's why we went and built this capability. Again, the scenario we took to explain as part of the demo is, today, if an OEM is asking their suppliers who's providing seat belts or airbags, whatever it is for the automotive customer, I'm making an engineering change. Tell me what is the cost of change and how long it is going to take. So they have to get the data from IT systems, OT systems, inventory management, transportation system, logistics system, and try to answer this question. We implemented this at a customer site, and from 3 weeks, we were able to bring it down literally 3 minutes to answer this question. That's how powerful the capability is between Snowflake and Mendix together on this front. So instead of building this kind of application custom, we have built a complete template which can accelerate the journey. So that's the whole intent. You can see this functional demo. We'll show an AVI, but a real demo is available at Radisson Blue, I think. So should be able to do it. So, okay, cool. So whole bunch of benefits as part of the journey, value realization journey, and also this is a broader suite of application, which I would love to call it as digital thread. One of the applications we built and launched is traceability.
So if you think about the use case that Pugal was talking about, this is first of all about bringing the various data sources together that that go along the use case that he was talking about. So meaning taking data from production, taking data from the supply chain, taking data from warehousing, logistics. So the nice thing here is that together between Mendix and Snowflake, we can handle first of all of these data sources. So what you see here on the left hand side is a part of the application that is first of all handling all of the real-time sensor data if you actually want to get more insights into your production characteristics. So meaning, where is my production and how do I actually, if I look at my backlog of orders that I need to fulfill, am I actually getting the performance that I need out of production? The second thing that we're adding here is not just about how do you deal with data and how do you actually properly visualize all this data across all the frontline workers and logistic users, etc. But how do we also provide further insight? So this is where Snowflake Cortex kicks in. So Cortex allows us to actually use retrieval augmented generation combined with the implementation of the LLM implementation of Snowflake to then give you a responsive chatbot experience as part of the application. So for example, if you detect an issue and you want to run a root cause analysis, you don't have to kind of go back to the shop floor with your pen and paper, but you can actually, based on the real-time data that you see on the left-hand side, you can already start asking questions around root cause, what the root causes could be for the issue in production. And the last thing, and this is really where you spoke about traceability, a lot of this data is not just owned by the OEM. If you think about a part, making it all the way to final assembly for a vehicle, there are a lot of chains in the middle. So first of all, the supplier, but then also logistics. And so if you want to actually look at historic performance of parts arriving on time at the place where they need to be, you can actually, across the full supply chain, you can actually run traceability analyses and actually look at, okay, who's the best performing supplier, and are there issues with suppliers where maybe I need to, for certain production orders, actually make a switch.
Yep.
So I think without the movie, you get a hang of this. So this is all about bringing data sources together, contextualize it, and then being able to build the right application experiences on top of it so that the frontline workers, logistics, supply chain, etc., they get actually the right application experiences that they need for their specific job. So how do we enable this technically? So for those of you that want to know a bit more. Oh, questions at the end? Yeah, at the end. So for those of you that want to understand a little bit more what's under the hood, it's pretty simple. So left-hand side, data ingestion. So this can obviously be directly with the core systems that are in play, but you can also use Mendix to ingest data into Snowflake. So we have a Mendix data loader. So if you look at the Snowflake marketplace, you will actually find the Mendix data loader. It's an efficient way for application data from Mendix to actually make it into the Snowflake data cloud. Then we contextualize this data, and it doesn't matter whether it's structured, unstructured, time series. You contextualize this, And then on the right-hand side, this is now then all about, okay, how do you build the right applications using all this data? Two ways to actually handle the data. You can actually use directly within the Mendix developer experience the REST SQL connector to Snowflake, or you can, if you want to go a bit more hardcore, you can go JDBC, so you can actually directly connect to the Snowflake tables. And the interesting thing is, it also allows you then to integrate with Cortex. So like I just mentioned, if you want to get some further insights into this data, you can actually use Snowflake Cortex AI. So if you go to the next slide, I think there's a final slide here. That's you.
Yeah, sure. So we got a whole bunch of customers. Obviously, Siemens, major user of Snowflake and also major user of Mendix. I think there are a couple of hundred, if not a couple of thousand apps today in Siemens world.
Yeah, with a bit of luck, next week we're going to celebrate our 1,000th application deployed at Siemens, so it will be good.
So the value realization journey, cannot think of a better example than Siemens together between Mendix and Snowflake organization. So a lot going on there. So one other large customer, not yet referenceable, but will happen soon. Pretty large oil company in US today is leveraging Mendix because they have been using Snowflake for some time and they have been struggling with value realization journey through Mendix by bringing in whether it is upstream, midstream, downstream data. They are able to get deeper insights and then realize value out of it. Another large customer for us together. So
yeah, and I think what is interesting here is this is a client that started independently with Snowflake and Mendix. But then, as what you see here also at Hannover Messe, it's all about how do you do data-driven digitalization, right? And so it's an interesting case where we met each other at the client and we're like, okay, let's work this together.
Yeah, and it's happening in multiple places. We just pointed out one. So the other one is a pretty large automotive customer. In fact, there is more than one where we are doing something similar again. Journey started separately. But once the customer saw the value and our team saw the value, we quickly brought Mendix and Snowflake team together, and they're able to accelerate their value realization journey and also doing the citizen development within their broader workforce beyond the IT organization, which Ray talked about. So it's already happening. So, okay. So again, just to wrap it up, there's a whole bunch of benefits from both sides. Obviously, Snowflake can help by bringing in disparate data sources into a common infrastructure with contextualization, with data model. And then with Mendix, you can realize the value quickly by building apps and also consuming AI, which a lot of customers are struggling with. There are multiple reasons why they're engaging with us, and they're also engaging with Mendix team. There's a whole bunch of customers in aerospace segment. Interestingly, their data is siloed and all of it, but they have got a bigger pressure to have AI capability within that world. So Mendix and Snowflake together are able to unlock that really fast, whether it's LLMs or traditional AI, so all of it. So that's pretty much what is going on between us. So
okay, very good. And then maybe to conclude, we'll be at the Snowflake booth together. So if there's some further questions, we can take a few questions now, but if you want to talk a bit more about it, we'll be at the Snowflake booth. And then finally, what I'd like to say is digitalization starts with data. So digitalization starts with data, right? And so that's why what we're talking about here hopefully makes sense to you, meaning get your data governance where it should be. Think about contextualizing data from your disparate data sources, and then it's all about how do you unlock this data for your end users. So with that, thank you, and then I will take questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So first of all, thanks for the presentation, quite insightful, and I think really that's a great solution in the combination. And I have two questions. So my experience with dealing with OEMs is normally that they are very shy and cautious when it comes about data sharing. This is their treasure. So first question would be, how do you deal with that challenge when an OEM basically talks to you, oh, I'm having issues here sharing data? First question. And second question, you showed here the operational efficiencies and production efficiencies. Can you have some examples of what it really brought with the two examples you had, or just one example? That would be awesome. So what it really made on for the customer as an efficiency? gain?
You take the
Yeah.
first one.
Yeah.
You take the first one.
Sure. So data sharing, this is something which Snowflake does in a very unique fashion. It's a major differentiator for us for the last 10 years. It's not yet popular within the manufacturing realm, but highly popular in media, entertainment, financial services. So I'll explain what it means. Let's take the problem first. Today, as I said, in automotive world, a car has got 3,000 to 3,500 end items or final assemblies. If I count piece parts, 30 to 40,000 parts, 70% comes from their suppliers today. There is huge amount of data exchange needs for the suppliers to provide requirements to their suppliers, OEMs to provide that, and the suppliers to share the quality data back and whole bunch of other data back, depending on whether they are full service suppliers or not. So the traditional approach is copy the data over. From this side to that side, other side to this side. It has multiple issues: data duplication, governance issue, security issue, cost issue. So with Snowflake, how does it work? So if the supplier wants to share their quality data back with the OEM, they share the Snowflake instance back with the OEM. Supplier pays for the storage, OEM pays for the compute to analyze the data. They can mix and match it with their data, whether it is same infrastructure, different infrastructure, we can support all of it without data copying over. So there is no governance issue, there is no double billing for the storage, there is no security issues. This is a game changer approach which Snowflake adopts. It has been very popular last 10 years. As I said, the manufacturing world is slow to adopt that. The rest of the world is up there. As I said, media, entertainment, financial services, I've been doing it for 10 years. So this approach eliminates all the traditional problems OEMs go through. Okay.
And then maybe in terms of, okay, so what? I mean, what's the value? I mean, it all depends on the use case, but let me start with the basic. The basic is, how do you get the right data at the right persona with the right user experience, right? And so what we've seen in many cases is that decision making has been sped up at least twofold. So meaning twice as fast, decision-making processes that are happening either daily on the shop floor, can be also within engineering, etc. So this to us is all about how do you get the right data at the right person to make the right decision. And so I think you're actually earlier, no, it was yesterday, we had Vivix here presenting.
Sure.
Ah, yeah, hey, you're here. So I think you're a good testimony to some of the efficiencies you get out of this, especially issue resolution. I think in your case, it was like speeding issue resolution up from days truly to hours, right? And so these are significant efficiency gains. And if you have not seen Vivix, make sure to re-watch the session from Aristoteles. So.
That's one of the best vision I have come across in manufacturing came from Vivix. It's amazing vision what Aristoteles has put together. So definitely you have to listen to that. So awesome. Thank you.
Okay,
Explains
thank
my
you.
questions. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well that's it. And then appreciate your attention. And then if you have further questions, feel free to stop by at the Snowflake booth.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.